bhavatu sahano bhunaktu saha viryam karavavahai tejasvina vaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om, may the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, again, good morning. Welcome to our Sunday gathering this morning to discuss the three Gunas and a primer on Samkhya philosophy or Samkhya conceptualization. First, a few announcements. A local increase in COVID-19 variant infections makes it necessary to suspend in-person gatherings until further notice. The chapel will be open every day for your personal use. So if you wish to come and meditate or just sit quietly in the chapel, however you please, it will be open from early in the morning until probably at least 8 o'clock at night. In August, there will be no Seva Saturday in August, and the center will be closed during the month. There will be no classes and no Sunday talks. Evening Arati will continue as usual, and the Chandi hymns will be chanted in Sanskrit and in English. So that's what August will look like. Is there any other announcement that might have been made that I didn't think to make? Anything else that anyone would like to add? All right. Once again, dears, welcome. July is a month for study of Karma Yoga, a spiritual path leading to the abandonment of selfishness. As a karma yogi, you practice offering your actions and their results, as well as your perceptions, thoughts, and feelings to the Divine Presence. In many Ramakrishna Mission centers, this prayer is chanted by the congregation in unison at the end of a worship service's homa fire ceremony. After a puja, there will be a homa fire, and the congregation chants this in unison. You'll see the applicability. No matter what I may have done, said, or thought, in waking, dreaming, or dreamless sleep, with my mind, my tongue, my hands, or my other members, may all that be an offering to the Divine Presence. May all that be an offering to the Divine Presence. Even before fully knowing this presence, a karma yogi holds firmly to the belief that the presence is within each person or other living being that she or he interacts with or serves. Working and abiding in this spirit, you are increasingly able to release attachment to your activities and their results. This yields the freedom and contentment promised by Sri Krishna as karma yoga. And Sri Krishna says even a little practice of this yoga will save you from the terrible wheel of rebirth and death. That's in chapter 2 of the Gita. Now, as has been said in the preceding weeks, what you're about to hear is not to be taken personally. This is not personal instruction for you. That's not the role here. We talk about principles and practices of spiritual disciplines according to the 4 yogas. This month we're studying Karma Yoga, and so we're going to talk about Karma Yoga and the 3 Gunas, a Samkhya primer. But again, just take from this what, if anything at all, appeals to you, and leave the rest aside. It is not meant as an ultimate truth, a dogma. All of these things are simply a way of talking about that which cannot truly be described in words. So this is what we're going to talk about this morning as Karma Yoga in terms of the 3 Gunas and Samkhya philosophy. Karma means action. As Sri Krishna points out in Bhagavad Gita, you will continue to act, work, as long as you're alive. Your very bones will make you do it, he says. Your very bones will make you do it. Why? Because though it seems that you are doing things and thinking thoughts, it is in fact the 3 Gunas which are acting. Now, these 3 Gunas, in the state before manifestation of universe, it is said these 3 Gunas are in perfect equilibrium. So there is no manifestation, nothing to be created from them. They're in perfect equilibrium. Then when the cosmic mind, in this case spoken of as Prakriti and Purusha, when the cosmic mind awakens to the idea of its oneness, it says, at the beginning of an age of manifestation, I am one, I shall body myself forth as many. And so this is what we're going to describe this morning, this going from oneness to manyness, and how that happens. And it is the gunas that create, that project all of this manifestation according to Samkhya philosophy. And pretty much all of the schools of thought in India accept the gunas as the instrumentality of the divine being for creating, sustaining, and transforming or destroying a universe. Krishna says that when we gain a true insight into the operations and functions of these 3 gunas, sattva, the revealing power, rajas, the projecting power, and tamas, the concealing power, when we gain true insight into the operations and functions of these 3 gunas, we will be free of all attachment and therefore free of all suffering. This true insight is gained only through contemplation, concentration, and meditation. True insight. True insight is not a matter of mentation. It's not a matter of manana. Though we do the contemplation in order to become more focused, it is in fact this truth is resident within us, this truth of the operations and functions of the gunas, and we come to understand, have this insight by doing concentration and meditation. Why? because the gunas and their actions are constantly interrupting. The gunas and their operations are constantly evolving the universe. We are not apart from that. We are part of that evolution of universe that is going on at this very instant. It has been going on according to the Vedic way of thinking about it for 15 billion years, according to the modern astrophysicists, 13.8 billion years. So it's been going on for a very long time, but is only a very small, that's about, in terms of how long this cycle of creation, sustentation, and transformation will take, we're only about 14% into this. So it is constantly going on. This results in all of these thoughts and actions. This is what creates the thoughts and actions, this constant evolution. We'll explore this. But we will only really and truly understand it when we take these thoughts into contemplation, concentration, and meditation, because we will witness their effects. As that witness presence, we will witness their effects. Sri Ramakrishna taught that Maya causes us to believe we are the doers, when in truth it is the gunas, which are under God's control, that act. It is they that act. Maya is the egoism that arises from our vanity and materialism, lust and greed, two of the gunas. Greed, materialism, tamas, vanity, rajas. We are compounded. These very beings, these very stardust spacesuits are compounded of sattva, the goodness of humanity, as well as our profuse quantities of materialism and vanity. The materialism and vanity add up to Maya, which is Maya results in our sense or our egoism that we are doing, we are thinking. The Master said, God alone is the doer. Everything happens by His will. He insisted that the actions you take and the thoughts you think are not your own. They are in fact God's thoughts and actions expressed through the operations of the gunas. Now this is absolutely incomprehensible to the left mind. There's simply no way that your ordinary thinking left mind, your linear verbal consciousness, is going to grasp this. It just is too counterintuitive. It doesn't seem possible. No, I am thinking, these thoughts are mine. The Master and other great saints say, no, that's not so. That's not the case. It is the gunas. So this morning, we will define and discuss the gunas, their source, their effects, and why they have such a mesmerizing grip on our attention. So before we go on, having said all those things, what does this give rise to within you? What comments do you have from your own wisdom or experience? What concerns does this raise? What question can be answered? All right. So going ahead with our definition then, first something from HinduWebsite.com. That's a web presence, hinduwebsite.com. And this is about Samkhya with some additions from other sources. So I'm not going to specify which is a quote from what, but I'm going to say, there is a definition of Samkhya from hinduwebsite.com, and then I pulled from other sources. According to the Samkhya philosophy, the source of all reality and experiences is Prakriti, or nature, or Maya. In its pure original form, it is the unmanifest, primal resource, the sum total of the universal energy. This is the unmanifest or potential form that then becomes, as we'll see, manifest. And the gunas are inextricably the operators for doing this. Prakriti is without a cause, yet it is the cause and source of all effects, the ultimate basis of the empirical universe. So we're going to trace then how this comes to be. What is it that takes it from the unmanifest to the manifest? Through a process of continuous evolution, and it is continuous as long as there is manifestation, there is continuous evolution. And this is not just the Vedic or Sankhya idea, it is also the absolute conviction through scientific proofs of the astrophysicists, quantum physicists, and so on, that there is continuous evolution. Things are constantly changing. Prakriti, through this process, Prakriti gradually manifests its latent potentials and effects into various forms, energies, and elements. And all we have to do is look around us, begin our contemplation by simply looking around us, and we see forms, energies, elements. No question. It's just there. How? Though it is the cause of all causes, Prakriti does not have any control of Purusha, God, or Shiva, or the individual soul, Jiva. Though it is the cause of all causes, it does not directly have any control over the Purusha. This is a name for God, or Shiva in this context, or the individual soul, the Jiva. No, not direct, it's indirect through the operations of the gunas. The creative process begins when Purusha joins with Prakriti and becomes established in it. Now, Sri Ramakrishna talks about this in great detail. Shaivism, as practiced in Kashmir, the Kashmiri Shaivism, also talks about the wedding of Shiva and Shakti, or Kali and Shiva, as the master does. This is exactly the same idea expressed in different terms. Prakriti is ever existent in potential or manifest form. So is Purusha. At some point, they wed one another, so to speak. Purusha becomes established in Prakriti, and manifestation begins. Now, this is slightly different from the Vedanta conception. Vedanta conception says that the what we speak of as Brahman is elementary, it is primal, and from this is projected Maya. Now, Swami Prabhavananda said this is a distinction without a difference. But nevertheless, if you are thinking in terms of what Vedanta says, well, this is not precisely the same language, same idea. From Brahman arises Maya, from Maya arises Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic egg, which is in Samkhya terms the Mahat. And then, and we'll talk about what Mahat is. And from Hiranyagarbha, as Hiranyagarbha bursts open, it creates universe. Now, Sankhya doesn't specifically, in its superficial way, talk about this. But as I mentioned the other day, if we were to study Sankhya philosophy continuously for 2 years, we would have some grasp of all of its elements. It's a very complex system of thought, very like modern science in that it is very left brain friendly. That is, it explains things in a linear way. Sankhya itself means counting or enumeration. So this manifestation happens when there is this wedding of Prakriti and Purusha. And it's said in Samkhya that Purusha becomes established in Prakriti. Just a note before we go on, Prakriti and the Gunas are identical. There is no difference between Prakriti and its operations as the Gunas. As Sri Ramakrishna says, water still, water in waves, same water. So Prakriti and the Gunas are identical. Gunas are the expression of this primal force. Out of this creative process evolved 24 cosmic principles. And so now we're going to talk about the 24 cosmic principles that are all the gunas or the result of the gunas. They are. So before we go on, lest we go too far without allowing you to participate here, any comments, questions, concerns about anything that's been said? Okay. As I said, out of this creative process of Prakriti's wedding with Purusha evolved 24 cosmic principles. And this is in the terms that Vivekananda used, this is the beginning of creation due to the disequilibrium of the three gunas in the state of the night of Brahma, or complete, we can't even say unmanifest, because there's nothing to be unmanifest. It's simply, if we think about manifestation and unmanifest as two sides of one coin, we can't actually say that there is anything other to be manifest or unmanifest. There is simply a potential. So 24 cosmic principles. Number one, the first of the cosmic principles, is called Mahat, the great one, the great principle. Mahat is Prakriti, or primordial nature, in its dynamic aspect, as yet unmanifest. That is to say, it's gone from beyond manifestation and unmanifestation, it has now gone to the unmanifest state, but dynamic. It is awake, so to speak. So it's the dynamic aspect, as yet unmanifest, still in its subtle form. And one of the key ideas in Samkhya is that there is a subtle form of nature behind our experience of the gross forms of nature. And this is why, through contemplation, concentration, and meditation, we penetrate behind the gross ideas and aspects and experiences and begin to realize the subtle essences. This Mahat Tattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is this Mahat Tattva, or shadow of pure consciousness, is the germinating place of all creation. Everything arises from this great cause, this, what in Vedanta terms is called Hiranyagarbha, Maya Hiranyagarbha. So what is the first thing that arises? According to Samkhya, the first thing that arises is the ability to tell one thing from another. So manifestation has been in its subtle form. Now it takes gross form. And what is this and what is that? And this ability, this capability, this property of Mahat is called buddhi. Buddhi. Now, we think of ourselves as having this intellect or buddhi, this discriminating power. There is only one buddhi. Whatever we experience within this stardust spacesuit is a reflection. We experience the great cause. This can be experienced as the light of a million suns, it is said. In meditation, you will experience the light of a million suns, or the most overwhelming music of the spheres. It isn't deafening, nor is the light of the million suns blinding. Because it is subtle, it is not harmful in that way. But this can be experienced, this Mahat. And it is the buddhi, it is that reflection of awareness in us as intellect that is the discriminating, reasoning, and causative intelligence. Causative what? When the buddhi is said to make resolutions. That is to say, this is this is that, this is the appropriate response. And so this is the buddhi and its reflection in us. It is just a reflection of the buddhi, just as we can have the experience of the reflection of the Mahat, this blazing energy that is constantly creating, sustaining, and transforming universe. So now we've talked about principle number 1, Mahat, principle number 2, Buddhi. The third is Ahamkara. Ahamkara, the ego principle. Well, what does that mean? It is, if there's discriminating reasoning and deciding going on, who's doing it? it is this cosmic I, this cosmic sense of I-ness. Again, there is only one. Our sense of self and identity is just a reflection of this. And it's reflecting on that which is created by the gunas, this stardust spacesuit, and as we'll see, the mind and all the things associated with it. So ahamkara, the ego principle. I am that which is discriminating, reasoning, and causing. And this is where we get mixed up in our sense of what's going on with this small self is doing this. I am thinking these thoughts. I am doing these actions. Yes, this Stardust spacesuit is participating in it with the capabilities and attributes that we'll describe as the rest of the cosmic principles, but nevertheless, it is not doing it itself. It is only the energy as of the Mahat, Buddhi, and Ahamkara that are causing this feeling in us. As Sri Ramakrishna said, as Swami Prabhavananda said, our feeling that we are doing something is very like a light bulb saying, I am shining. Well, yes, there is a shining going on from within the light bulb, but the only reason it happens is because the electricity is flowing through the filament of the light bulb, or in modern terms, more different ways of causing that shining. But nevertheless, because of something that is there, that is being acted on, without the electricity, no shining. Without the gunas, no thought, no action. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna was getting at. So now we've talked about the things that are unmanifest, come into manifestation as these three cosmic principles of Mahat, Buddhi, and Ahamkara. And now the gunas are very directly creating everything that we talk about since. They are also creating these other aspects, but now we're getting into the arena of the tangible to us, what we can reach out and, so to speak, touch. Touch with our awareness, touch with our sense organs, our organs of perception, and so on. So before we go on into the rest of the cosmic principles, 4 through 24, anything at all from anyone about what's been said? About who? Yes, please.
Talking about Mahat and Buddhi, I remember long back Swami Yogeshananda describing Mahat as universal mind and Buddhi as individual mind. So Mahat is a vast, all-inclusive general principle of what you call cause, intelligence, or universal mind. And second thing I remember, Swami Ranganathananda's book, somewhere I read and I liked it. He says that universe is not just like unmanifest becoming manifest. According to him, unmanifest projects itself as manifest. So it's
Yes.
projection, not creation.
This is the Vedantic way of seeing
Yes.
it.
Yes.
This is what happens. Samkhya is more, so to speak, process-oriented or mechanical, if you will.
Right.
Remembering that Samkhya means counting or enumeration.
Yes.
In fact, if you study the counting and enumeration that is actually a part of Samkhya, it will remind you very much of the modern chemistry chemistry construct called the periodic table. So much of this plus so much of this adds up to this. So much of that plus so much of that plus so much of that adds up to that. And this is exactly what is being described by Samkhya in great detail. Very, it cuts it very fine. But there's only three active ingredients, so to speak, in Samkhya. Within chemistry, there are many more. But the idea is the same, that it is the combination or compounding of various, and now we've come to understand that they are nothing more than fields of vibration. Each of these things that we describe as an element, oxygen, it's an oxygen field, hydrogen field. The combination of hydrogen field plus oxygen field, H2O, results in what we experience as water, and so on. This is modern chemistry. Well, exactly the same thing is true in Samkhya, but they just have three vibrating fields, so to speak. This sattva, rajas, and tamas. And we'll get there. Thank you. Thank you, Uma. And yes, this business of Mahat being universal and Buddhi and Ahamkara being the dawn of individuality, discriminating, reasoning, and causing. Well, what is doing that? It is an individuation of this unindividuated energy called Mahat or Prakriti. So that's what the Yogeshananda was pointing to. So the first three cosmic principles, Mahat.
Excuse me, Shankara.
Yes, dear.
Uma, could you please repeat what Swami Ranganathananda had said about the projection?
That unmanifest becoming manifest. Instead of that, he says unmanifest projects itself as manifest.
This is one of those things, Lori, that Swami Prabhupada would say is a distinction without a difference. We can hold these two competing ideas in our mind. What Vedanta says about it, which is what Ranganathananda was talking about, or we can hold the Samkhya idea in mind. Swami Prabhupada would say, what difference does it make in terms of your experience of it? So don't fret yourself about it.
Thanks.
I've got a comment.
Yes, Tom.
Hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I read something last night that I'm still thinking about that really fascinated me. From the time that light comes into your eye, hits your retina, moves through your optic nerve, and gets to the part of the brain where it's processed, it takes about 1/6 of a second, 1/6 of a second. When a good pitcher in baseball is throwing a fastball, it takes about a 1/2 second from the time it leaves his hand to the time it goes over the home plate, which means that the batter who is standing there and thinks he's seeing the ball is really seeing the ball where it was a 6 second ago, which is about 1/3 of the distance between home plate and the pitcher's mound. You follow me so far?
Absolutely.
Okay, so what that means is that when the batter is swinging his bat, he can't possibly be seeing the baseball, but it feels like he's seeing the baseball because the mind has constructed a sort of prediction of where the baseball will be when he can see it. I don't know if I've explained this clearly.
You've explained it clearly, and it is one of the things that's so phenomenal about baseball that anybody ever gets a hit at all.
Yeah. So what it means is that my mind and everybody's mind is constructing a whole reality that's not really there. It's
yes.
Okay. So now then this takes me to the Samkhya, what we're talking about, the Gunas and so on. And this is where I see the difference between modern Western science and the idea of the Gunas. In modern Western science, any theory, the way you test a theory is you make a prediction and you do an experiment. With what we're talking about, these ideas arose thousands of years ago when people did not have the instruments or the scientific method to do experiments, but they did have a lot more time to meditate and look into their own minds and their own consciousness. I think I'm speculating. But so anyway, if you put all this together, my speculation is that the idea of the Gunas and so on refers to internal states, observation of internal states of mind more than it does to the external universe.
Yes.
Modern Western science uses the scientific method and experimentation to understand the external universe. Now, everything I just said might be wrong, but that's my thought for the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Well, this experiencing the internal states, yes, this is exactly where we encounter the Gunas as our internal states. Yes.
Brother Gaurav here, kind of tagging along exactly with Tom, because this is a very interesting conversation we're having. I have briefly dabbled in quantum mechanics, not a lot, no physicist, but there is a portion where you basically are looking at an experiment. As he said, you predict the results, right? But the prediction of result completely varies from where you're looking at the results from. So it might look like 1 + 1 is 2 at a point of time. Maybe 1 + 1 will look like a 3 if you're observing from a different position. So that is there in the quantum world.
Yes.
So it almost feels like it's the reality that we think is correct on one side is probably not from the other side. So
this is one of the things that confounded the early quantum physicists and continues to confound them today. If you want to look up the proof of just what you said, I'm sure you already know about this, but if anybody else wants to look it up, just Google the term Bell's, B-E-L-L''S, Bell's theorem, and it absolutely proves just what Gaurav said.
It is impossible to figure out.
It's beyond being able to figure it out.
Beyond human, I don't know, intellect. I don't know.
Well, this is why Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Uncertainty principle. You cannot spot exactly. It's a probability, but that's about it.
Exactly. You cannot define precisely the nature of reality in its entirety at any given instant, and so this is what is so confounding about quantum physics. And the Nobel Prize laureate Dr. Richard Feynman said, every statement about quantum theory and quantum mechanics is in one way or another simply a restatement of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle.
Uncertainty principle.
And
Absolutely.
and Tom was exactly talking about that. The
Totally.
batter really cannot
Yes.
possibly know where that ball is going to be. So this is why anyone who has a batting average above 250 is a prized hitter, because somehow they have this capacity of intuition, and of course they spend lots of time in the batting cage practicing their intuitive grasp of where the ball will be when it gets to the plate. And it's amazing even that the catcher can catch anything, the rate at which it's traveling. When you throw a fastball 90 miles an hour, as Tom said, it gets from the pitcher's hand to the plate in just a fraction of a second. And by the by, in terms of science, in terms of modern science, particularly quantum physics and things like the Large Hadron Collider,
Oh, yes, exactly. I was going to come to that, sir.
a half a second or a sixth of a second, that's an eternity. The things
Yes.
happen in a fraction of a billionth of a second. They have created equipment, measurement devices that can detect what happens in a fraction of a billionth of a second.
And incidentally, I kind of took my daughter out on a movie called Buzz Lightyear, and they showed exactly that. Lightyear was traveling at the speed of light, and he comes back. Every time he comes back, he's not aging, but his colleagues are aging like by 4 years, 5 years. So
Yes.
they're getting older, and he's not. So that's
Yes, precisely.
a time speed. So yeah, time slows down if you're doing that. So
One more comment.
Time essentially disappears.
No, can you hear me?
Yes,
Can I make another comment?
of course, Tom.
Okay, so the batter will swear to you, the top batters on earth will swear to you that they see the ball, and they see the ball as it impacts with the bat, although that's impossible. But the mind is not just predicting where it is, it's creating like a whole movie of, you do see the ball, your experience is that you see the ball. The batter's experience is not, I'm predicting where it is. The batter's experience is, I see the ball.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like in dreams, you create your mind creates this whole elaborate world in a dream without any of it really being there.
And Vivekananda says that's exactly what we're doing in the waking state as well.
Yeah. And so anyway, I just wanted to clarify that, and I guess I've never swung a bat against a major league pitcher, so the ball wasn't moving that fast. But my experience in the little bit of baseball I played is, I felt like I saw the bat. I felt like I saw the ball and hitting the bat. I felt like I saw the ball as it was just a couple of feet from the bat. How much of that was just a mental creation, like a very efficient dream to help me hit the ball? Okay, thank you.
Well, and then there's the people like Babe Ruth, who had phenomenal batting averages, and he could actually say, I'm going to hit one over the left field fence and make it happen. He confounded pitchers. How in the world is he able to do this? Ty Cobb said of Babe Ruth, he's not possible. It's not possible. You can't hit my pitches. But Babe Ruth did. So there's powers of the mind. And I encourage you to read Swami Vivekananda's talk, The Powers of the Mind, to get a grasp of what I'm gesturing to. Anything else before we go on?
Shankara, wanted to add my 2 cents to this discussion. The very fact that if you try logically to explain what happens on the field, like batter hitting the ball and the person catching and all that, which I know zero about. But what intrigues me is what Tom said about internal knowledge. And that, to me, is the most fascinating thing. That just like our rishis and our munis in ancient times intuitively perceived the truth. And that is a super intelligence, which is par intelligence. And that is what we call intuitive intelligence, isn't it? That through that,
That's one way of talking about it, yes.
the truth and grasp truth without going through the steps or the analysis or the causes. So maybe that's what, if we cultivate that power, we can do the same and excel, whether it is game or it is writing or it is any kind of creative power.
Well, this is why I said, Uma, that the only way for us to really come to a true insight, as Krishna says it, a true insight into the operations and functions of the gunas, is to practice contemplation, concentration, and meditation, and doing the object related concentration and meditation, where we let our mind rest on not the gunas themselves, but what is this unending change that the mind is experiencing? What is the nature of this? Where does it arise from? And then we see that it is not us doing it. It is something causing the appearance of us doing it. And then we understand that our moods, our sense of ourselves, and so on, in terms of the gunas. And then we're free of attachment to them, as Sri Krishna says. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Uma. Thank you, Gaurav.
I have a question.
Yes, Robert?
What, where, how is the source of support for the gunas?
There is no support. They are aspects of the causeless cause. They are simply the instrumentalities of Prakriti when it goes from the potential state to the active or dynamic state. And so and it's just, this is the thing that, Robert, we always have to keep in mind, is though this is a very sophisticated way of talking about it, it is simply a way of talking about it. This is why modern science has come up with many, many, many more things that combine than simply these three energies of sattva, rajas, and tamas. But Kapila, the sage who propounded this Samkhya theory so many millennia ago.
Would it be more like they're unsupported, or we don't know how they're supported?
But there's just no need for any support. It's as if you say, what is the support for the energy that is making my body? You can say that comes from this place, that place. It's all just a way of talking about it, Robert. And that's why it's so confounding, and why there are so many different ways of talking about it. The Six Darshanas, modern science, all these different ways of talking about it. There is the reality, there is our experience of the reality, and what we do with that experience. So the support for the gunas, the prakriti is the gunas. So there's no support in that sense. So we can't say that they're supported or unsupported. They just arise quite naturally from the energy of being going from potential to dynamic. That's how it's understood from here anyway.
Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Can't you just say that and you said, I think you've said this before, that prakriti is the source of the gunas.
Well, that's one way of talking about it. And in fact, prakriti is the gunas, and the gunas are prakriti. But if we're going to talk about two different things, prakriti and gunas, then yes, prakriti is the source of the gunas. But is it the support of the gunas? That wouldn't be the way it's understood from here. They don't need any support. They simply are. They simply are. Let's just leave it at that.
Thanks.
Okay, it looks to me like this is going to have to be continued next week because it's already 11:56. But let me quickly go over these other, the rest of the cosmic principles, and then we'll leave the discussion of the gunas part until next week, the more profound discussion of the gunas. The fourth cosmic principle is mind, manas, the mind or the sixth sense. Now we'll get into a definition of that later, but we're just going to go ahead and define these cosmic principles. So that's number 4. Now we're talking about actual manifestation. There is a mind. There is the subtle mind, and then there is the physical projection of that mind within this stardust spacesuit. All right, the 5 through 9, the cosmic principles 5 through 9, the 5 senses, the 5 sense organs, eyes, nose, ear, tongue, and the skin. So those are what are regarded as cosmic principles 5 through 9. 10 through 14, the 5 organs of action: mouth, feet, hands, organs of excretion, and the organ of excretion and the organ of procreation. So those are the 5 organs of action, 5 organs of the 5 sense organs and the 5 organs of action. These now are what we very intimately experience. 16 through 19, the 5 subtle elements: sound, touch, smell, form or color, and taste. So these are the subtle elements. They have their gross form as the 5 gross elements: earth, water, air, fire, and ether. So there's the subtle elements, and then their gross forms. These 24 cosmic principles are continually evolving. The Mahat, the Great One, is the first to emerge in the process of evolution. The Mahat is Prakriti, or the primordial nature, in its dynamic aspect. From the Mahat evolves Buddhi, Buddhi is the principle of intelligence, or the discriminating awareness. And from buddhi evolves ahamkara, and the feeling of individuality and separation, and the 5 principles of sound, touch, smell, form, color, and taste. So all of this now is something that we experience, but is not a physical thing. It is not yet that. Buddhi, ahamkara, and this sense of individuality, and these subtle principles of sound, touch, smell, form, and taste. Then manas is the mind stuff, which is throughout our whole body. It's not in the head. Manas is the mind stuff consisting of pure consciousness. We fragment this pure consciousness by the actions of the 5 organs of action and the 5 organs of perception. We fragment this. All the other principles arise from manas, the 5 senses, the 5 organs of action, and the 5 gross elements. These are the 24 cosmic principles, and together with Purusha, which joins with Prakriti to initiate this process, the number becomes 25. So 24 cosmic principles plus the very intangible Purusha. So now it's afternoon. We can continue the conversation, and I'll take up this business about the Gunas next week. And then on the 31st, we'll have an open forum on karma. Any final thoughts from anyone? Anyone wants to? Somebody's got their mic open, so we're getting feedback. Anything from anyone about what's been said so far?
Brother, Bohm talks about like implicate order, and I thought that the description matches the subtle worlds, like the yogis talk about the subtle body, and there are like certain sciences like Ayurveda and some of the others. They used to see a plant and meditate on that plant and get an understanding of what properties it has. So maybe
Yes.
they have a glimpse into that subtle world.
Oh, there's no question. This is the mind of the brujo, or the shaman. They have this ability to do this kind of one-pointed concentration, and so the concentration then, as Patanjali very eloquently explains in the Yoga Sutras, the thing that is being focused on, brought the one-pointed mind to, it reveals its nature to them. So this is how a shaman or a brujo will know the nature of something. And as you say, the Kavirajas of Ayurveda could know but as Sri Ramakrishna said, in this time, this subtle business, the treatments according to the subtle ways are too long. The body disintegrates too quickly, disintegrates. Notice the term integrate, disintegrates too quickly. So he says it's time for, I forget, Dr. Gupta's mixture. So in other words, modern medicine. And Sri Ramakrishna was a fan of modern medicine. both allopathic and homeopathic. So all of this that you just pointed out, Rajiv, it's true that one can discern the nature of and properties of something, and this is clearly how the Kapila discerned. Of course, since he says, Krishna says he was Kapila, he didn't really need to discern it. He just needed to describe it in ways that would be understandable and acceptable to the left brain.
Brother, I was recently this is something I have a 1-year daughter, so I was trying to baby proof my entire house.
Well, that's quite a task.
And she goes about everywhere and trying to open the doors and all the drawers and everything, and she feels frustrated that she can't open anything. And she keeps repeating the word like open in Hindi. And I thought maybe we are like that. We have all these powers of the mind, and we cannot open them. And even with spirituality, like I feel like, why is it that it is bad or it's discouraged in spirituality to use these powers of your mind to do daily work? It's almost like I feel it's my birthright. It's not something magical. It is something which is probably very natural to me in an evolved state, and it is my birthright. Why is it that they discourage us from doing these things?
Well, who discourages you? Who's discouraging you, Rajiv?
I mean, like these powers of the mind are sort of psychic powers, and in many spiritual traditions, they say don't explore them, don't think about them.
Why do they say this? Because they do not see the goal of human life as being more efficient and more capable in a worldly sense. They say that the goal of human life is God realization, or as Christ put it, seek ye first the kingdom of God, and then all those things will be added unto you. And you will be able to discern what to do and how to do it. And Sri Ramakrishna says exactly the same thing. First realize God, then dance for all you're worth. But before that, focus on realizing God. That's why the discouragement from what can be a detour of many lifetimes by satisfying your desires by this exploitation or use of these psychic powers. Is it wrong? No one's saying it's wrong. It's just there's the ideal, and then there are those things that are less than the ideal. And so the use of these psychic powers, which, as you say, is your birthright, how else could you have it if it weren't your birthright? But what you have to be careful of, according to the biblical story of Jacob and Esau, is not selling your birthright for a mess of pottage.
So very well defined, brother. Actually, one of the things that I've noticed, this is Gaurav, by the way.
Yes, Gaurav.
Is that like in the church, right? I'm not talking about the Catholic faith, but in the church, I don't know why they tend to focus on the miracles of these great saints, even though many of the saints said that's not the main thing. It's not the main thing. It's the focus. Focus should be on God realization.
Mm-hmm.
But still, they tend to focus on these miracles, which I believe is exactly what Rajiv was mentioning.
Well, why do they do that?
To gain popularity or something,
exactly.
I guess. Very cheap, actually.
Yes, it is.
Again, coming back to Mother Teresa, they were waiting for a miracle to happen to, I mean, come on, really?
Well, but certainly that was not her concern.
No, never.
That was not her concern. So the fact is that people who wish to attract crowds and be part of, in some subtle to gross way, manipulating those crowds of people will
Yes,
use
especially even though Christ said, "Don't do that." Means
Oh yes, he was very
and
clear.
everybody, even like Swami Vivekananda mentioned that in his works, and all
Yes.
these great people. That means I don't get it.
Well, Gaurav, it's easy to get. You know, there's ignorance everywhere. Everywhere we look, there are the products and manifestations of ignorance. This is one. People's vanity and greed will lead them to all sorts of exploitive behavior. This is just an example of it in the religious realm. It's not spiritual, it's religious. And it isn't even religious in the sense that Vivekananda spoke of it. There is no selfishness in religion, as he spoke of it, but it is called organized religion or churches or what have you. And so you'll find that the more profound teachers of a spiritual tradition, I'm thinking of Richard Rohr, Cynthia Bourgeault, Thomas Keating, and these are three that are have been prominent, or two of them are still prominent. Keating passed away. They don't emphasize these things.
They don't. No.
No,
they
as
don't.
a matter of fact, they discourage talking about it.
Yes.
So we don't need to concern ourselves. We do not need to concern ourselves about the activities of the ignorant. We need to focus on removing our own ignorance as best we can. And that means focusing on the higher, not on the lower, replacing the lower samskaras with higher samskaras, relentlessly and continuously, for again and again, that recollectedness. So let's not concern ourselves with the, as Christ said, become passers-by. Don't concern yourself with the activities of the ignorant, except as you can do something about them within the reach of your resources and your personal capabilities. You can ease, stop some of the bleeding, ease some of the pain, but other than that, don't trouble yourself.
Brother, but there is this, there are two versions to this. So one is this cheap gimmicks and, all this superstitious stuff. But the other is like normal people without even realizing that. And in many situations without any yogic practice, they are able to have these, like even Swami Vivekananda, when he spoke, I don't remember exactly, but when he used to speak, it seems he used to just, his speech used to descend from somewhere, and he used to just be like, I don't know if it was like he was hearing it or he, so, and there is that part. And then there is this, the other example where Ramanujam, he didn't want any fame, he didn't want any money. All he did was just want to do mathematical equations, that's all. And he didn't even have time for proof. And he just said that goddess, whatever goddess was, she used to whisper equations into his ear. And there are so many instances like that. Like, what if a person doesn't have all those desires, but they just wants to have the most perfect experience and joy in expressing what they are really deep into, and maybe that is not liberation, but why judge them?
There's no judgment. There's no judgment, Rajiv. And you're so good at these what if arguments. What if? The intelligent mind can do what if for freaking ever. What if? So yes, what if? And there is no judgment. It's not a question of judging. It's a question of what are your priorities? What are your priorities? And if your priorities are God realization, then you'll organize yourself and your activities accordingly. If there's some other motivation that you are bent on satisfying, whose business is that but yours, unless you're harming others? And if there's no harm to yourself or others, and harm to yourself, of course, is a very subtle question, but if there's no overt harm to yourself or others, no foul, no harm, no foul. So nobody is trying to tell you what to do. That's why the caveat at the beginning of these talks. No one is trying to tell you what to do. It's not my place. I'm simply describing what the sages and saints have told us about these ways of understanding reality. And so there's no argument to be made. So that's it. And you know, so we'll just leave it at that. Anything else from anyone?
I'll go just briefly.
Yeah, Tom.
Okay, so I really agree with what you said about how it's better for me, rather than look at the ignorance of others, to look for my own ignorance. I really believe that's true.
Yes.
In spite of that, I just have a compulsion to say this.
Okay.
Every time I hear Mother Teresa mentioned as a great saint, I'm not going to say anything about it, but I suggest that you go to Wikipedia, look up Mother Teresa, and then read the section on criticism. And that's all I'll say about it.
Okay. We've heard this from you before, Tom, and there must be two sides to the coin. Otherwise, you wouldn't be bringing it up. I have no personal knowledge of Mother Teresa at all. I've encountered people who have actually been in her presence. That's all I can say about it. I don't know anything about her really. Anything else from anyone? All right, dears. We'll take up the discussion of the Gunas per se next week. And then on the 31st, that will be the 24th. And then on the 31st, we'll have an open forum on karma yoga and discuss, what it is that is meant by abandoning selfishness and freeing ourselves from the attachment to the fruits of our action and what Sri Krishna means when he says that our fundamental delusion is that we are the doer, when it is in fact the gunas. That's what he says. So anything else before we close? All right. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. and may we hit the ball when we come to the plate. Okay? Until next time, which of course could be as early as tomorrow evening when we discuss the poems of Rumi as given to us in the book Love Poems from God by Daniel Ladinsky. Tuesday, of course, we read and discuss the life of Holy Mother. And on Wednesday, we're a good bit now into Swami Ranganathananda's book, Divine Grace, in which he strongly asserts that to be fully human is to be fully divine. Next Saturday, we'll talk about Swami Prabhavananda's translation of and commentary on Patanjali, which he published as How to Know God. And then next week, we'll finish this talk. Any final thoughts or comments or questions from anyone? All right, dears.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're just so welcome, and thank you so much. Thank you for all the energy that manifests when we do this. Isn't it grand? All right, away we go.